So plastic, just because it was the only ones that are that small.
Right. The smallest violin they make is probably I should know this, probably a 32nd size. They have 16 sizes, 8 sizes, quarter sizes, but I was too small for the smallest violin that was made. So I had just a little toy violin, but it worked. It played.
That was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's more about the strings and the bow, right? A little bit about, I mean, well, I'm sure a lot about how the body's picking up the sound or expelling it or whatever.
Right. The resonance of the wood.
Yeah.
And that's why like a cheap violin can have not a good sound quality. It still makes sound, but so I'm not saying this violin had a great sound quality, but it didn't matter at that age. It was just getting started.
I just started picking up a guitar and doing some lessons just on YouTube or whatever. But I quickly realized you don't need a good guitar to start playing. You know what I mean?
Right, to start, absolutely. Yeah. But it does make a difference. Like if you have an instrument that's not good quality, it makes it harder to play. Especially like with the violin strings and the height of the strings. Same with guitar.
Yep.
So when I'm starting students on violin, I like them to have a good setup because it makes it easier for them to learn.
Okay, that's good to know. All right. So our second question is: your whole family musical?
My immediate family, as in my parents, yes.
Okay.
They were both music teachers, and my dad's primarily a trumpet player, and my mom plays violin and piano. So, yes.
Yeah. I'm assuming they wanted you to do something musical, at least try it or something.
Well, it was a huge part of my life growing up, like going to orchestra rehearsals and such. And so as far as career and college went, I got a great scholarship for violin, and they didn't want me to necessarily go into a musical career like I ended up doing. They were very open to whatever I wanted, but I definitely got a scholarship with music. So yeah, keeping that up throughout high school was very important.
Yeah, I bet. I have a number of musical brothers and sisters. I don't think my parents ever played anything, but a lot of my brothers and sisters played stuff, and I don't know. I tried to pick up about every instrument I saw one of my older brothers and sisters, try to play.
Yeah.
I ended up on drums.
That's an instrument. That's fine.
Yeah, it was fun. All right. Let's see. I understand that you are in music therapy. Not yourself. Is that teaching?
Yeah, I'm a board certified music therapist. Okay. And so I practice as a music therapist. I am also a teacher of music therapy. So at the college level, I teach people how to become music therapists.
Okay, awesome. Well, that completely explained what I was trying to wrap up in my mind.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure exactly what you did and how that, I didn't know if it was considered like a teacher, but so you actually teach what you do as well.
I am technically a professor, yes.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, who influenced you to go into music therapy?
My university that I went to, I decided to go to University of the Pacific. It's in Stockton, California. And I was going as a music major, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to major in specifically. And then the first few days of like orientation, they said music education majors over here, music management over here, music therapy over here, music performance. And I was like, music therapy, what's that? So I didn't find out about it until I actually got to UOP. But I always wanted to be working with people somehow. And I loved this whole psychology aspect. And I was there for music. I got a music scholarship. So I ended up going with the music therapy crowd. And then I actually added on a performance major too. So I double majored in music therapy and performance.
Wow. All right. That sounds like a lot of schooling.
It took a total of 6 years for my undergrad because I had 5 years because of my double major. And then with music therapy, there's a 6-month internship that's required. And I started that 6 months after I completed my coursework. So that was a whole extra year. So in total, and then I wanted to get my master's in music therapy also, but my undergrad was a good 6 years.
Oh, wow.
But I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Yeah.
I loved my time as an undergrad and as an intern. I got to do my internship at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, which is in Hollywood. So
Yeah.
I got to live in a great place with a roommate, and it was awesome.
Yeah. One of the questions that wasn't on here that I feel like I should ask now is, what settings are music therapists usually found in?
Everywhere.
Okay.
So we work from even before birth to after death, like working with mothers. We work in the neonatal intensive care unit, the NICU. We can work with even after a loved family member passes, like with bereavement. So you can have private practice, which is, you can have your own business and work with individual clients. We have music therapists in behavioral health, in medical settings, in retirement communities, assisted living. So any setting that's willing to have the support for music therapy. We work with a variety of different populations for numerous goals. And
Yeah. So I'm asking a bunch of questions off the
that's
list. I'm
fine.
sorry. So I'm curious because for me, I found music early and realized how therapeutic it was.
Mhm.
And so maybe I could be helped with it. Are these people that just didn't ever find that? Most of them?
I think the difference in using music for yourself and music therapy as a practice is that music therapy is evidence-based. So there's research out there and you're working with the clinician. So that music therapist is facilitating the music experiences for an individualized goal. So that can be like social emotional. It can be fine and gross motor, like a lot of stroke rehab or Parkinson's disease, any traumatic brain injuries, PTSD. We have a veterans group that we run at Marietta College. So the difference is that you're working with a professional who's trained for that specific purpose and can help facilitate the music experiences that are specified for the goals.
Okay. And what type of music?
That's also very individualized. So depending on the person, we always try to use patient preferred or client preferred music. So like, for instance, if you hate improvisatory jazz, I'm not going to use that with you.
Right.
But it also depends on the goals that you're working on. So if you're working more if you're in a hospital setting and you're working with a patient for reduced anxiety or for increased relaxation, you're not going to want to use something that's pumping up. And there's evidence out there that, well, you can probably guess, like a slower song, but it's actually evidence-based that people's heart rate, people's blood pressure, all that stuff changes with certain types of music.
Yeah. Certain tones even. Do you use any of that?
So I think that's
Research?
more probably like sound therapy, but
Okay.
we use there's 4 types of methods of music. There's recreative, which is kind of like you working together or just by yourself recreating a song. There's compositional, so that's writing music. There's improvisatory or improvisation, which is like extemporaneous music, just coming up with it on the spot. And then there's receptive, so that's just listening. And so all these different things, like this is what we teach to our students, like when to use this music, when to use that music, how is this changing something, what age are you working with, what are the reasons, what's the functionality of the music.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. Like I said, I feel like music's super important. I don't know if I would have survived without it, honestly. It definitely, like many times, just I feel like it saved my life in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think it continues to save my life.
Yeah.
I almost always have something on, music on in the background.
And you yourself, even without like being in music therapy or having a music therapist, you've learned the different uses that music does. Like if you want to be in this mood or if you want to change your mood, what type of music you're going to listen to. I
would say I find that my favorite bands often kind of span multiple genres and have, hard, soft, in between.
Mm-hmm.
So because, I already, fell in love with their, voice or music or whatever. And then now I can listen to it at all the different times or moods or whatever that I'm in, which I really like that.
Yeah. And
the Beatles, for instance, is one of them I would name.
Absolutely. And also if you hear like our prime times are like, early 20s when you're coming into adulthood, right? And
Yeah.
so the music that you listen to then, you probably will remember your whole life because that was such a prominent time. And it's also interesting for me personally to notice, and this happens with clients too, and with my students, is if you listen to a song when you're 18 and had a certain meaning to you, right? I bet you can think of a song right now
Oh yeah.
that you listened to when you were 18, and the lyrics or somehow the melody, the harmonies, whatever, the beat meant something to you. Now, if you were to listen to that song, the lyrics might take on a whole different story because you can relate it to where you are now, or either that, or it brings that exact memory back.
Absolutely.
What you were feeling the first time you heard that song, your first breakup, or the first
That's
dance you ever
what
took.
it reminds me of a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah. That's too funny. Yeah, well, all of that is absolutely fascinating to me. I hope everyone out there's, getting something out of this, because I don't know that. I just never thought that that was a formal title. You know what I mean? That there were actually people using music as that, which they definitely should be. I definitely believe in that.
Yeah, so it's part of like the creative arts or expressive arts therapies. So we've got music therapy, dance therapy, art therapy, drama therapy, and music therapy is actually, for better or worse, the only creative art therapy that is that you can practice after just a bachelor's degree. So all the other creative arts therapies, you need a master's. They don't offer a bachelor's degree in them, and that's a topic of discussion for a later podcast. But it's nice that when people go to school for music therapy, they know that they're gonna, after their internship and after they pass the board certification exam, they know they can get a job as a music therapist.
Yeah, that is good, especially these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to question 4. Did you know you wanted to be a pro violinist when you were a child, or did you think of other professions like being a lawyer, doctor, politician, surfer, model, whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't never think I was going to be a performance major, and I knew I definitely didn't want to be a music ed major because both my parents are music educators and didn't want to do that. But I guess this is actually a kind of funny story. Back in the 90s, when I was growing up, the checkers at the markets had the really long fake nails. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And so I used to say I wanted to be a checker just because I wanted the nails. And of course, as a violinist, now my nails are as short as I can get them always. So that didn't work out, but that's probably also a good thing. But yeah, I thought I wanted to be a vet for a while, like every kid does. And then I really liked the idea of being a pediatrician. So I was always interested in like the medical side, the medicine. So it was cool that when I did end up being a music therapist, my internship was at a children's hospital because like I got a little taste of, what it was like enough. So
that's awesome. All right. Well, here's an interesting question. 5. Can a tone deaf person play the violin?
When I read that question earlier, I was going to Google it, but I decided not to because it's very rare that somebody's actually tone deaf. It can happen, I guess, but I think that
so
a lot of
more of an untrained ear is what we call tone deaf.
Exactly. Okay. I think, and I think, like I said, it's very rare that, and I think it's actually called amusia. It's when somebody can't understand music.
Oh, wow.
Just like aphasia, right? Where you can't you have either expressive or receptive aphasia, where you can't either understand or say something that you want to say. And that usually happens due to a stroke or a traumatic brain injury. But amusia is when somebody can't understand or can't produce music, which is very, very rare cases. Like I've never met anybody like that, but it was in one of a textbook once. So I guess it's true.
Interesting. Yeah. That would be so.
I guess if you have amusia, then you might not be able to learn how to play the violin unless somehow you get past that. And I would assume maybe like a guitar, because you have frets, you can learn how to play a chord.
Right.
But I think it's an untrained ear, or singing helps so much too with learning how to play an instrument, because if you can sing it, you can play it because it's coming from you. And then that's also training your ear and training your voice to hit the right pitch, which is exactly what you have to do for the violin because we don't have frets.
Right. Yeah. That one seems really hard to me. Kind of like a trombone doesn't have actual positions. You're just sliding it,
Yeah, and
or at least a slide trombone.
Yeah, exactly. They call them positions, but you have to know where it is, and that all happens with muscle memory and training your ear. This is where that is. So.
Yeah. That's I always kind of fast. I always wondered how you guys were figuring out, like, well, how do they know where their fingers, and they're just going so quick. It's like, are you sure you stopped at the right spot? But and then
we try.
I guess the other thing is, like, in a guitar you have a fret because that's what basically holds the string to get the vibration. I guess you don't, I guess you're not plucking it really, so it makes sense that you wouldn't really need that fret to hold the string. You know what I mean, to cut the string off, basically.
So I think our fingers do that, not the frets. The fret is just where the note is, and it's different than violin because you have there's so the fret is like this big, and in that, and then they get smaller when they go up the instrument because the string gets shorter and you have less vibration. So it's actually the exact same concept with the violin. As you go up the fingerboard, you have to be more cautious or more precise with where you put your, well, you always have to be precise. That's not right there, but the intervals get smaller and smaller because there's less string to vibrate. So the fret is where your finger can go anywhere in that fret and make that same note on the guitar, versus on the violin, there's less string to work with. So I think I'm saying that right.
I see what you're trying. Yeah, I'm getting you for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. But I guess it probably has a lot to do with, like, in a guitar, you're plucking, which is going to really move that string, which probably makes it way harder to try to just hold it down with your finger.
Yeah. Well, you can pluck
and get a good clean vibration from the string.
Yeah, you can pluck the violin too.
Right. I've seen that before. Yeah. Do you have to push the string down harder or anything, or?
I think it's the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on. Have you ever taught an adult or senior to play a violin to a high degree?
I've taught adults. I've taught adult piano students before. I mean, an adult, does that make like an 18-year-old or like a 40-year-old?
I think an 18 would qualify.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what the person who wrote the question is probably more trying to figure out, like,
if you can still learn as an so
as you teach an old dog new tricks, I think is the question.
And yes, absolutely. But the difference is when you're younger, your brain is more of a sponge.
Absolutely.
So if you, just like learning a language, if you learn at a younger age, it's easier to learn.
I would imagine finger flexibility is a huge part of violin, just because that neck is so small.
Yeah, and like Paganini had huge hands, and that's why he wrote crazy things. But he could do it still. It doesn't. I don't think body shape and size comes into play a little bit, but I think anybody can learn. It's just about training your muscles to do it and practice, the hours you can put in for practice. And when you do learn at a younger age, it becomes more natural because it's a part of you. So yeah, an older person can learn how to play for sure. It's just, are they going to put in the time and the work to get to that level?
Right. Are they going to have that much time, free time?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to, what instrument or voice evokes the biggest response from a person with a mental challenge?
So I was wondering if, and maybe it doesn't matter if it's like more of a neurological disease or a mental health challenge or like developmental delay. But I think the answer can be the same anyway, is it's very individualized. So whatever works best for that person and what you're trying to do with that person. But in general too, voice usually is huge because it's coming from within you. It's actually you and you feeling it and producing it. And it can be like really empowering for One example is women who have had any type of abuse in their life. There's a vocal psychotherapy that Dr. Diane Austin works with, and it's just all about using your voice and expressing your own sound, and with that music therapist. So.
Wow. Is it always singing? I mean, it kind of has to be if it's music therapy.
So one way to like get into that to help somebody become more comfortable with using their voice is chanting. Oh. But it's still the sound that you're creating. And I don't know if you've ever sang, but you can really like feel the vibrations in your body, and becoming aware of that too is a huge thing. But for the most part, yeah, singing would be ideal, because the way like the prosody and the melodic connection with that, it's different than just speaking. Right. And it's scary for people to sing sometimes, especially if you've never sang, and just producing the music rather than speech. I was going to say something else. But it doesn't necessarily mean like singing a song. You can do vocal improvisation or just like oohs and ahs. So that kind of stuff, but it really has to be facilitated in a safe way. So somebody needs to not go in there not knowing what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think, having someone laugh at you while you're trying to learn something new is never a good move. Yeah. No. All right. I'm learning a ton already. So I'm really glad I had you on. All right. Let's move on to, if you had a second totally different profession today, what would it be?
It would probably be what I wanted to be when I was little, like a pediatrician or something. Yeah, I always say after I finished grad school, it was 8 years of school. I think to myself, I could have been a doctor, but I'm not. Medical doctor, that is. But.
Yeah. I feel like I've had enough school almost to be a doctor, and I'm like, why didn't I just go be a doctor?
Yeah. It was too daunting at first, and now I'm like, ugh, yeah. When I did all this, why not do that?
That's exactly what I keep thinking too. Well, if I would have just, looked at it for the long haul instead of I need to get out and make money, be done in 4 years and get out. Silly. All right. Well, I would ask what makes you want to be a podiatrist? Pediatrician.
I don't want to be a podiatrist.
No, you don't want to be a podiatrist. When you said pediatrician, that's what I heard in my head. So yeah.
I love kids. Yeah, I love working with kids, and I think, that's a good question. Why did I want to be a pediatrician when I was little? I loved the show ER. Do you remember that show?
I love that show.
And I loved doctor shows, and I actually still watch Grey's Anatomy to this day, even though that's not like a real doctor show. But
right. What do you mean? That's perfectly real.
It's really what doctors do every day of their work. No, I don't know. I think and I had friends. My parents had friends while I was growing up that were doctors. It just seemed really cool, knowing all that stuff and doing all that stuff. And now probably not so much, because I have somebody's life in my hands, and that wouldn't be right. That would be crazy stressful. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, my dad's a doctor. He's about as stressed as they come. At least he used to be when he worked. Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to, is teaching or performing more emotionally satisfying to you?
I would ask a clarifying question, but I know you didn't write these questions. What type of emotion are we trying to evoke? It's different for me. I like doing both, I guess. When I do a lot of different teaching, so this might be a really long answer, but I teach privately, and I have private music therapy clients, and then I teach in classroom settings, college students who are learning how to become music therapists. And I love the balance of teaching my private students and teaching my college age music therapy students. Because it's just so different. It's so different. And I love I love the relationships that I've built with my students, both in the classroom and private students. Just when I finish a good class or in music therapy, it's like, wow, that that was awesome, and I get kind of like a high from it. Just like when I see my students improving, they're the private students, and then they get to do a recital and like actually have fun with it, and I can really see the. I guess this is a little bit selfish, but I can see the difference that I'm making in their life as a mentor or as a person, and that's not why I do it.
No,
Like I do it because I teach violin and piano and other stuff like guitar and ukulele, but for them, like to see their growth, whether it be private student or college music therapy, but it's great. Performing is completely different. Like I don't do that. I mean, the audience is there. That's great. And after a concert, I always get a high because I'm like, that was awesome. And I'm just like thinking about what I just did. But then it's just, I don't know, both different ways.
Oh,
Yeah.
great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do a lot of coaching and teaching. It is one of the most rewarding things I do for sure. I would never quit doing it. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it's nice to have like a side gig because, you know, it gives you balance to your life and you don't have to just do one thing.
Yeah. I've pretty much done it voluntarily all these years, but it's not going to ever stop me. I could really care less if I ever get paid for it. I actually have a girls basketball season coming up next month that I'm looking forward to.
Oh, cool. At a high school here?
No, it's just middle schoolers here in town. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
I used to play water polo in high school, and
Nice.
I can't throw a basketball because I always ended up throwing it like a water polo ball into the net.
Like with
I
no
never-
arch. Yeah.
Yeah, I never learned how to like do the whole thing, but
That's too funny. I had a player on our team, on my team in high school. He shot line drives, so he was like at least 2 inches taller than me.
wow, that's pretty
But
tall.
when he shot, he just kind of like, it was almost like he was trying to shoot down at it. He never made shots from more than like 3 feet away.
If he was 2 inches taller than you, he could probably just dunk it every
Almost,
time.
yeah. He definitely didn't have to jump far. You know, he was just like a little hop and he could dunk it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you think that music having the ability to transform human beings has been overlooked in our society, such as music programs being canceled in public schools, defunding of art programs, etc.?
Well, of course. I think that the hugest thing is like funding. Like you don't want to pay for the arts anymore, but if we didn't have the arts, I mean, we would have math and science and reading, which is great. Obviously, we need those, but why are the arts always the first to get cut? It's because it's not in the core curriculum. It's an extracurricular, but like people can't get into, not that everybody has to go to college, but people can't get into college without having extracurriculars these days. Like, sure, grades are good, but it's not everything. And like, look what it does without even if you're not interested in music therapy, art therapy, look what music does for every individual, or art, painting. Sure. And we can mess around with that without being trained, but it's about culture. And the other thing too, like, is so much of our history is based in music and art.
Mm-hmm.
Like back in, you know,
well, if it weren't for art,
the 900
we know half of our history.
Right. 900 BC, 800 BC, like the hieroglyphics, there was like music back then, you know, and how much oral history has been passed down through music.
Yeah.
Like it's part of our culture. Why are you?
Yeah. I'd never understood why they cut that either. To me, music and art were the two most important classes I took. And if I didn't have those, I was ADHD. So you can only imagine how, bouncing off the walls I would have been. And yeah.
And it's so individualized too. Like every student learns the same math equations. Every student learns the same chemistry, whatever it's called, like concoctions. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not a chemist, but and everybody learns the same music too, at the beginning at least, but how you play that music, it's part of your self-expression. Yeah. And I think that's what's so big about music therapy is it is self-expression. Like and music says things that words can't.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. Like if I don't know how to put it into words, and there's your lyric right there. And like, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be lyrics. It's like the emotion that's evoked from how the music fits together. And, you know, that's like classical music. There's no lyrics, but,
Yeah.
you know.
So. Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. At least some of it for me anyway.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be classical, even like Led Zeppelin guitar solos, right? Like
Right.
people love that stuff because it touches and it brings out feelings and emotions.
Something that I've noticed really in the last few years, because I've been going to a lot of concerts over the last few years. I used to sit too close, and so I couldn't really get the sound it's not tuned for the front row. You know, it's tuned more for like the middle of the pack. So that's where I try to go now, because I'm kind of fascinated with sound and have this new studio and all that. Yeah. One thing I've started to recognize is that certain notes, I don't know if it's even certain notes, it's almost like certain chords with multiple guitars and a piano in the background and maybe a the drums or something. There's a certain like specific chords that I can watch the whole crowd be affected by it, and I can definitely feel it inside. You know what I mean? And I wish I knew what those chords were. I would play every song I had would have like those 5 chords in it. Yeah. You know, because it's really, that seems to be about like maybe 5 to 10 different chords.
Yeah, I think it might be the specific chord, but I think also a lot of it has to do with where that chord is, like the tension and release and the expectation that people have. Yeah. And it's actually called the expectancy theory. Like we expect something to happen. Yeah. And when it does happen and we're expecting it, then we're like, oh yes, that's what I needed to hear. Or if we're expecting something and it changes, then it catches our attention again. We're like, whoa, what just happened? And it doesn't mean that we dislike it, but there's different ways of like, which I'm not going to say correctly right now because I don't have the book in front of me, but different ways of like the beginning of the expectation, like what's happening before, then when it happens, and then there's the response that we have. And all this can happen in a split second, but it's about how the music is put together and then our reactions to what we expect, what happens, and then our response to it. Gotcha. So I think it's really cool. I teach a psychology of music class, and that's one of my favorite topics to teach because it just keeps coming back.
Yeah, that one's fascinating to me. Mainly just because I've experienced, that, watching it in concerts. Yeah. The weird thing is I don't ever get that feeling if I'm just listening to the stereo. I don't care how loud I turn it up. I never get that feeling unless it's live.
Absolutely. And that is actually evidence-based that live music is more effective than recorded music. So whenever, as a music therapist, I hope to use live music sometimes. However, there are things that aren't as good about it, contraindications. Like if I can't represent that culture's music in the most authentic way, then I'm going to use recorded music. Yeah. Or if it's like some crazy hard rock song that you need those elements to get the whole effect. Like I can't play that on guitar, especially acoustic guitar. Yeah. So in that case, like then recorded music might be more effective. But there's evidence that most of the time, usually live music is more effective than recorded. So that's why going to a concert, you get a different feeling than listening into it. Yeah. You're also in the atmosphere, you got the crowd. There's a huge social aspect to that too. You're a part of something bigger. Transfers. Yeah. You're around people who are doing the same thing. Yeah. So
most likely the fan of the same band you
hopefully.
Are. Hopefully.
You're at that concert. I hope they would be. Let's get a lot of booze.
Of course, I go to a lot of festivals where there's 20 bands or whatever. So I'm pretty sure most people haven't seen half of them.
Right, but you're at the concert at that one band, and
it's
those
still
people
the right genre. It's usually rock or folk or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty neat. All right, well, let's move on to what was your happiest moment in performing music? That's
a good one. You say it's a good one. I didn't like this question.
No. I would say, I don't know what happiest. The word happiest can be a very broad statement, I would say.
Yeah, and I also think that like as a performer, I've performed so much. Yeah. My happiest moment, I guess thinking about it a little bit, what sticks out to me the most is when I completed something. So like I did 3 solo recitals in college, and my senior final solo recital, when it was done, I was just like, it was like the hardest thing I did in my whole entire life, and it was done, and I was like, yay. It just felt so good to be done. You have to memorize. I played it was an hour recital, just me playing, which is nothing for people who get their masters and doctorates in their instrument, but it was only a bachelor's. But it was the hardest thing, and it was just so nice to be done. I think it's really fun when you can play with friends in an orchestra. Like, I loved growing up, I had friends that we would always, travel to the rehearsals together, and so fun to look at them across and I played with my parents in orchestras too. You can look at them across the way and like notice something and laugh, or like, probably shouldn't be doing this, but texting like something, a joke or whatever. And so having that, again, a social aspect, this camaraderie. I can think of a couple times like where I've gotten chills when I'm playing, which is a great feeling. And like playing sometimes, it's not always for the audience. It can be for yourself too. And there are certain pieces that I play that I really have fun with. Like, I love playing musicals, and I love accompanying people, because it's like the musical wouldn't be a musical without the orchestra, right? And so it really comes to life. And it's so fun for me to play musicals. So
That sounds fun.
Yeah. So I guess there's 3 different kinds of happy. There's like what you do for yourself, the emotions that it brings you, the end result, which is always a good feeling. And then there's like the fun of playing with friends and in musicals and stuff too. So
that's fun. That's pretty awesome. Was a great answer.
Thanks.
Very nice.
I scripted it out beforehand.
Yeah.
No,
all right. Well, let's see. We got a number. Do you feel like playing something? Take a break from the questions for a minute?
Sure. This is live. We could ask the audience what they would like to hear, but sure. So this is a song. It's like a classic jazz standard ballad. It's called "Like Someone in Love," and I probably should have known it a long time ago, but I learned it when I went to violin or strings, not just violin, strings jazz camp that Christian Howes hosts almost every summer, but I'm not exactly sure with COVID now. But so I can play some of this, and I'm not going to improvise at all. I'm just going to play the melody straight through for you. Okay. Let me scoot over here. And the lyrics are awesome in this. Do I have time to read them?
Absolutely.
I'm not going to sing it for you.
Oh, come on.
So it's, lately I find myself out gazing at stars, hearing guitars, like someone in love. Sometimes the things I do astound me, mostly whenever you're around me. Lately, I seem to walk as though I had wings, bump into things like someone in love. Each time I look at you, I'm limping. Oh, sorry. I'm limp as a glove and feeling like someone in love. Isn't that cute?
Yeah, it is cute.
Yeah. And of course, when it's performed by different artists, you always get a different feel, a different flavor. So.
Yeah. Awesome. That was beautiful.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I'll give your fingers a break for a second and go back to questions, I think.
Yeah, it's easier for me to answer questions than play.
I bet. I bet.
Talking is something that we all do. So
Right. Um, let's see. Um, since your mother is a pianist, did she teach you to play piano also at an early age?
yeah, I probably started piano maybe 4 or something like that. But um, it's interesting. My mom couldn't teach me violin or piano very well because she's my mom, and
I was gonna ask
family
that.
dynamics.
Yeah.
So I always had. I tried to take lessons from her for a while, but I always had a different violin and piano teacher. And it's something. It's probably like one thing that the one thing that always comes to mind that I regret in life is not being better at piano. I wish I was better at piano, and fine with how good I am at violin. Like I've gotten to this point, but I just never spent time to practice piano as much as I should. And I wanted to quit so many times, but I wasn't allowed to quit. And my poor piano teacher, gosh, she actually, so she got me a gig at playing at the Bear Valley Music Festival in California, which I get to do again this year. And since she's passed away, unfortunately, but she was an amazing teacher, also a bassoonist. But
Wow.
was it, let's see, last year, I think when I was at the Bear Valley Music Festival, she had her core group of friends. She'd been playing it for like 50 years. It was
Wow.
amazing. She plays bassoon there. And so we were talking, and I was like, yeah, thanks for teaching me. And she said to me, I was joking something like, yeah, I know I wasn't very good at piano. She goes, nope. And you didn't want to practice either. And I was like, oh, you knew? Of course she knew, right?
Yeah.
But she was like so real with me, and it kind of made me feel bad. I was like, oh, you put up with me for all those years, because I took
Right.
piano through my senior year of high school with her before I moved to college. But anyway, yeah, I started with piano too, and I wish I was better.
Yeah.
But my mom always told me, you're gonna regret this later. You're not gonna you're gonna not want you're gonna wish you hadn't have quit if you quit. And of course I was
Yeah.
middle schooler, teenager.
Yeah.
No, I want to quit. I don't want to practice,
Yeah.
But it takes time and discipline, and
That it does.
I am here where I am today because of it. So
Yeah, that's funny because I've definitely noticed that. Like, I want to know how to play the guitar already, and I just started like a week ago.
yeah.
So,
Wait, it takes more time than
a week apparently, and I have like maybe an hour here, an hour there. So yeah, it's been.
Well, I'll give you a lesson. We'll do
All
a
right.
podcast lesson exchange.
Absolutely, I'll take anything I can learn. All right. Well, moving on. We're almost there. Looks like we got about 3 or 4 more questions here.
Okay.
Why is the RCSO, the River City Symphony Orchestra, starting a strings program next year? What is the value in that? And that's probably good enough for that question.
Well, as someone who is not necessarily a musician, but learning music, you play the drums and you have a musical family, what would you think the value is in that?
Well,
and specifically, I think the key points is like strings program in the Mid-Ohio Valley, looking at the resources we have here.
I don't really know. I'm trying to figure out, okay, if you're a symphony orchestra that doesn't already have strings in it.
So it's a youth program.
Oh,
that might change things. Youth strings program.
So yeah, I can see a huge value in that.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that my daughter did choir. She never did band. I've had a few kids that I've coached that did band. And yeah, I don't know. I like the directors of those two things. Their hands are just way too full. And I find, like, with the choir, the guy, Mr. Reeder, I believe was his name, he was stressed out, and I could tell that he was missing out on some of his best singers because he just didn't have time to sit and listen to them or whatever, and so yeah, I could see there another outside of school program I think would be really good for those kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also on top of that is that we don't really have a lot of resources for strings here in this
But
program, in this area. Like,
yeah,
sure, there's Athens.
that's a long
It's
way.
a little ways away,
Yeah,
and
especially in the
we would
winter.
like to draw. So I'm on the board for River City Symphony Orchestra,
Yeah.
and we would like to. I'm helping with this project currently. We would like to draw from all of the surrounding areas. When I was in elementary through high school, I drove 2 hours to get to a rehearsal. Mind you, that was because of LA traffic, and I get that. But still, it was without traffic, it was an hour home still, because of where we lived. And so people can drive, and they should drive to get here, even if they are from Athens or from wherever else is an hour away. But the reason why we're starting it is because there aren't a lot of string resources. Ashley Clark has done a great job with the Williamstown Strings program, but that's the only program in the area. And
Wow.
also it's in West Virginia.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other teachers in the area, absolutely, like cello teachers, Cindy Poles, Amaris Kibe. There's other names I could continue to name, but it's just, we have great band programs in the area. We have great choir programs. But if somebody wants to learn an instrument, a string instrument, they don't have a lot of places to go. So I have I've only been here for 4 years, and I have a really strong piano and violin studio, and more people want to take, and we don't all have time for that.
Yeah.
So I think the purpose is, and the value is, that people can learn strings at a low cost. And then, just like arts in the schools, except we don't even have it in this, we don't even have strings programs in the schools here.
Yeah.
It can continue, and then they can be the future River City Symphony Orchestra. You know, we need this very traditional kind of symphony setting. We need this to continue throughout their years. And there's this really great YouTube video about, I'm nervous to even say this on here, but like the white supremacy behind teaching theory and classical music.
Oh, wow.
Because like
Yeah.
all the stuff we teach is based off the old white guys like Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, all these people. And so I get where we should be a little bit more progressive, but that's not to say that symphony music, classical music, should not continue.
Right.
Like that is something that is kind of dying a little bit, just because it is the older, more affluent population that tends to go to symphony.
That it's still as strong as it is, though. I mean, it's like the only genre of music that has, come
survived
hundreds of years,
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. I don't know that, Nirvana will be back, or around in 100, 200 years. I don't think it will, honestly.
And that's interesting that you say that too, because like Nirvana, the music will survive, but the people in the band,
right, obviously
they're gonna, right. And so with symphony, the music is what has survived. It's not the same people still playing it, but we need to teach people to continue to play it. Otherwise there's a loss.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, music that was made in the 20s, let's say, if once the people that lived in the 20s are gone, that music, there won't be that many people playing it. You know what I mean? A couple hundred probably around the world, most likely.
But it's recorded because
it is, right.
They
but
had,
my thought is like that classical is still like people are fans of classical music. Like there aren't that many fans of 1920s music or 1900s.
I get that.
That's the crazy part to me, that it has had that many fans for that long of a period of time. It's the only one I can think of that has.
That might be where the word classical comes in, because it's the classics, just like the rock classics. That stuff is never going to die. Like
I think the fans will go away. I think because, like, if you think about it, the people that lived in 1920 don't like our rock music.
Yeah.
And then the next generation, like my daughter, doesn't like most of my rock music.
And
she wants hip hop. So I think I don't think all those stay around. I think that will forever be shifting. But classical, I think, will forever still be around.
Right.
Because it's probably the best music to actually teach someone how to play music. It's like, it's crisp. It's very detailed. So you actually almost have to play it exactly like the last musician, almost.
Yeah. I mean,
whereas heavy metal or whatever, you can just sound like the other guy, and you're good enough.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the philosophy of many people, is that we try to be as close as to what the composer wanted as possible.
Yeah. Maybe that's why it's still been around. because
Yeah.
all the other genres don't care about that really.
Maybe that's a good point. I never thought of it that way. But you also bring up a good point with your daughter not liking your genre of music.
Yeah.
But in music therapy, a lot of the time, like if I have a client who's in their 20s, their parents are gonna know the Beatles, and so because their parents know the Beatles, they're gonna know the Beatles. So I can use the Beatles for them, and also the music they like
Yeah.
One Direction or whatever,
Yeah.
you know. But then also thinking back, if you're working with an older client, you need to use the music that they knew when they were in their 20s.
Mhm.
So you're gonna be using like Cole Porter or something that they know that was in the 20s or 30s.
Right.
And eventually, when I'm older, much older, and I need music therapy, like what are people going to play for me? It's going to be the music that I knew when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Because those are the critical, like your periods
sense.
of,
Yeah.
becoming.
I almost thought it would be more like 15 to 20.
Yeah, it's like 20s, so early adulthood.
Yeah.
So you could say, I think 15 can fit.
Yeah.
But like also,
it seems to be like my favorite music was mostly from 15 to 20 for me. Anyway,
yeah, I could even push that at 15 to 25 maybe, because like college is a huge thing too. If somebody goes to college, it's a huge. You're technically you're adult at 18. According to the government, but like developmentally, everybody like 25 would be when you're completely developed. And then
I was like 40, I think.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And so then, even then, like if somebody's had any type of trauma growing up, and that doesn't mean like physical trauma, but any type of emotional, developmental trauma of family, whatever, can be, then your brainstem doesn't fully develop, and then it takes you longer to develop because you're in fight or flight mode most of the time, instead of like, I'm protected, I have food and water and shelter and parents who love me. And even if your parents love you, there's other things like relationship and attachment that can play into that trauma. So well, that's also another podcast, but
that's very interesting.
All
right, well, so we got 3 questions. What is your favorite composer to play or listen to?
I don't like that question.
No,
I won't answer it. No. It's kind of like somebody asking you, like, what's your favorite song?
I hate that. I hate what's your favorite movie? I don't remember half of them, so I don't know.
I think that depends on my mood. I do have some composers that I like. The harmonies are like, I tend to go to Dvorak a lot. Like when I'm playing in an orchestra, I like the New World Symphony or the American Quartet is just like so fun to play, and the harmonies are just like encapsulate you. But when you're playing it, I don't know how it is from the audience. But I would say that I would much prefer to be playing in an orchestra than listening to an orchestra, because
me too.
So
rather play sports than watch them.
Yeah.
Good answer. All right. What is Raquel Christine music? Someone found this on your bio. Apparently.
So I am a business owner. It's a sole proprietorship, so it's just me. I don't contract out. But I teach and I do music therapy and I perform. So my motto or my slogan is people, passion, music, because I like working with people. I'm people passion because it's 2 P's, and I guess I'm passionate about it because I do it, and then it's all about music. So it's my sole proprietorship business that I think I started in 2016, maybe, when I finished grad school. Finished in 2015, but then I moved back somewhere around there. And I do have a website. It's raquelchristinemusic.com.
Awesome.
And that's my middle name. I chose not to have my website be Raquel Ravaglioli because nobody can spell that. But And I have little blogs on there and my mission and my vision for music therapy and my philosophies of teaching and all that stuff.
Awesome. Well, good. I'll try to pull that up while you're playing the next song.
Okay.
All right. Last question, and then maybe we'll have maybe a couple songs after that, if that sounds good.
Sure.
What did you record at Capitol Records?
That was a fun story. So I was in my 5th year of college and I got to fly down from from Sacramento to LA for just a weekend. I had a musician friend contract me to record at Capitol, where Frank Sinatra recorded and all the cool people. And sorry. And I don't even know what I recorded for.
Really?
Yeah, I heard that it was for video game music. I think maybe,
that's interesting.
But it was really cool. We had the whole click track thing and everything. And when I was growing up, we had this program. It's called Disney Magic Music Days. So, in one of the elementary orchestras I was in, we got to travel to Disneyland and go back in the back where musicians actually record and be clinicked by people who actually conduct the orchestras for the movies. And we had this whole screen up and our click track. So it was actually not my first time experiencing that. Excuse me. Although with the Disney Magic Music Days, it was just for fun and learning experience. It actually wasn't recorded, but it was nice, really nice that I had that previous experience because I wasn't going in blind. I knew a little bit of what to expect, but it was very cool. And when I got there, all the great musicians were there. Like my violin teacher in my last 2 years of high school was in the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and he was the concert master of that orchestra. So I was playing with the big guys, and I'm like, wow, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It is neat. All right. Well, save anything you want to say till the very end. So I think if you want to play a couple more songs, I would love that.
Okay, let's see what I have here. We could do some Bach, or we can do some Wish Upon a Star. What do you think?
Bach sounds great.
We'll do Bach and then maybe end with Wish Upon a Star.
Sounds good.
All right. So I think I'll just play. It's the first half of the first movement of Bach Partita Sonata Number 4 in D minor. And this is just the first half of the first movement, the Allemande. Okay. I was just teaching this to a student today, so let's see. Oh, thank you.
Very nice. That last note was really cool.
Yeah, a chord. Wow. Yeah. You want to hear Wish Upon a Star or no?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody knows this song. It's from Pinocchio, but it's another standard jazz ballad as well.
gorgeous. Very nice.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, you're the first violinist I've had in the studio, and
Am I the first music therapist too?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, it just sounds good in here.
It sounds really good.
Good.
Yeah, I hope
Good.
it comes out on the final product as well as it did just now.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I pulled up your website here. Is there anything we should show them on here at all? I kind of skimmed through most of it.
Yeah, that picture is actually of me working. I do a lot of service work with music therapy as well. So whether that be in the community or elsewhere, I've been to Jamaica and Romania and Mexico doing just service work with music therapy. So that was at an orphanage in Tijuana, Mexico, and you can just see like the joy on their faces.
Yeah.
And being exposed to music and that connection, that human connection. I mean, if you scroll down, there might be some fun things. I don't know. There's my biography. Let's see. Go down a little bit further. I think there's some fun numbers down there. Keep going. Oh, that was me in Jamaica with working. Oh, yeah. That was actually at a school where the children were deaf or hard of hearing. So music therapy can work for people who are deaf and hard of hearing too.
I bet.
And then keep going a little bit. Keep going. There we go. There's the fun numbers. Some fun facts. So I've performed violin or provided music therapy in 7 countries. I've played. Oh no, I need to update this. Now I've played violin for. Maybe I won't tell you because then you'll figure out how old I am. Then 17 years of private teaching. I should update that as well. I have been teaching since I was like 14. So, wow. And then probably more than that, but yeah, just some fun facts. So, and then if you click on the blog, there's some cool pictures. I do get signed contracts by all my clients and students saying that I'm allowed to post these, but some of my fun ideas that I've had as I continue to work as a teacher and music therapist.
All of them. Yeah.
That was my master's presentation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, of course, have some testimonials. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's been fun.
Yeah.
I think we're all done here. Is there anything you wanted to promote before you get off of here? I know you're in a musical right
now. Kiss Me Kate is playing at People's Bank Theater. We had our first opening, our opening weekend this last weekend. It went great. And we have 2 more shows, 8 p.m. this Friday and Saturday.
I'll be there
first
Saturday.
And second. Cool.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
And let's see. I know the River City Symphony Orchestra has lots of concerts coming up this new season, starting in, I should know this, September, I think. But we do have a website also. It's rcso.info. And if anybody has questions about music therapy or teaching violin, piano resources that you need, my contact information is on my website. And it goes right to my Gmail. So I will answer that email. And yeah, thanks. That's pretty much it, I think. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. If you're ever back in town, I would be more than glad to have you back on.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely. For
Maybe
sure.
Bring a different instrument next time.
Yeah, I'll bring something. Yeah. I'll bring all the instruments.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.